the first thing was, how do you come up with a name? What do you use? So, Wellmaster seemed like it was pretty broad, and I could do a lot with it from a standpoint of advertising. Didn't have anything to do with some specific geographical area. So that's how that got started. And then I started making equipment at a machine shop over in Aurora, having it made to my specifications. And they had a fellow there that was really good with coming up with logos and stuff for different companies. So that's how the logo came about. And the name of that company was Schultz Manufacturing. And I don't think it exists today. But Barney Schultz, who was the owner, was a very interesting person. And that is, he was an absolute expert at understanding and designing different types of tools and products that could do different things. So he was the one that helped me get started. So on we decided we needed a logo, and I got somebody to help me, and he worked for, again, Barney Schultz. And I wanted something that would be easy to recognize. So we named the company Wellmaster Corporation, because that I didn't want it to be confined to just plunger lift. So we can do other things and still keep the same name. And so we came up with a design which was a W and an M encircled with a C for the corporation. And somebody was nice enough to make me one of these, which I can use to get the cows and put my stamp on the back end of the cows. At any rate, we never did use it for that, but it was kind of fun to have around. And it was a kind of a Western idea, and we're a Western company, so why not? What I didn't tell you is that when I gave up my job with Baker, which was now Artificial Lift Systems, Inc., I also gave up my company car, and I didn't have anything to drive. So I borrowed a friend of mine's, and it had a really ugly orange-colored top. And I thought, man, this is not good. But it turned out to be really, really good, because people could see me when I was in the field for a mile away, and they know that I was out servicing wells and I was getting work done. And it wound up being quite a good deal, although we didn't use it for a work truck all that long, but it was interesting at any rate. And started basically building plungers. And the plunger that was used by Baker, and it had, I believe it was 22 circular discs that went on a shaft, and they were a little bit, the inside diameter of the discs were a little larger than the outside diameter of the shaft, so they could wobble it out, and that's why it's called a wobble washer plunger. And the ones in the center had springs in them to keep them pushed off center all the time. And we started making those plungers, and were able to actually sell them somewhat cheaper than the competition, and started off in that vein, and it started to work pretty well. And from there, I started designing other components of the plunger lift system, from the lubricator to the spring, and it was kind of interesting. I had fun doing the design work and putting it on paper, even though I'd never had a class, but it worked out, and I could make it so that people could read it, and it made sense, and so we made lots of equipment over at the Schultz Engineering Factory. And there were some times where we would be over there working until 1 or 2 in the morning. But I was either doing that, or another friend of mine, computers hadn't really come out yet, but there was this one little computer that was very small and you could carry it around. And a friend of mine had one of those. And so when I wasn't doing the manufacturing and the design of the tools, I was writing on this computer a business plan. So I would do that over his house. But everything worked out, and eventually we got a full implement of product, and we're starting to have some fun with it. I hired a person who had lent me the Jeep, or the Scout rather, and he came to work, and I think he was probably my first full-time employee. One of the first installs I did, I remember, and the fact that it was, I can't remember for sure who the customer was at this time, but the wellhead was sticking out of a pile of rocks, and all around was oil, black oil, and black oil, slippery oil on the rocks that went right up to the wellhead. And I was installing a lubricator, but first I had to get the old one off, and so I disconnected everything, put my pipe wrench, and I had a brand new pipe wrench, to undo the lubricator, and the pipe wrench handle broke off, and I went flying into this pile of rocks and oil, and never had any problems after that. But to make a long story short, the lubricator I put on worked just fine, and the well produced fine with plunger lift, and off we went.